Narayana namaskritya Naraicha vanarottamam Devam sarasatim vyasam Tato jaya mudiraye Nasta paryesu abhadresu Nijam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavate uttamas loke Bhakti bhavati naistike Vede ramayne chaiva purane bharate tata hado adyam cha bhadi cha hari sabatu khiyate mukam kauti vachalam pangu langarite grihi yakripataham vande Shri Guru Dinatarine Paramananda Madhava Dhamma Pojita Katavotra Paramo Nimashram Satam Vedam Vastavam Atravastu Shivadam Tapatayo Monanan Shima Bhagavate Mahamane Kitake Vaya Para Ishwara Sadhyo Rudi Havarudritra Katapitake Sanam Atoyam Brahmasutranam Bharatata Beninayam Gayati bhāsā puruṣo vidata paribremita Sabhaviditi asanam saram saram paribremita Sabhavidanta saram him Sri Bhagavatam Ishtite Tarashammitasya titasya nayatasya rati kotivish Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevāya. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 20. The chapter title is the descriptions of the rainy seasons and autumn. The rainy seasons and the autumn. Now we're in the summer now. We're in the summer, and then the next season is going to be the monsoon, which is basically the rainy season. So this is very beautiful descriptions here in the chapter 20 of the 10th canto Bhagavatam. So we have a lot to learn from this chapter. So we text number 19. Na rarājoḍupaś channaḥ sva-jyotsnā-rājitair ghanaiḥ ahaṁ-matyā bhāsitayā sva-bhāsā puruṣo yathā rarāja did not shine forth uḍupaḥ the moon channaḥ covered sva-jyotsnā by its own light, rājitaiḥ, which are illuminated, ghanaiḥ, by the clouds, aham-matyā, by first ego, bhāsitayā, which is illuminated, sva-bhāsā, by his own luster, puruṣo, the living entity, yathā, as. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada disciples. During the rainy season, the moon was prevented from appearing directly by the covering of the clouds which were themselves illumined by the moon's rays. Similarly, the living being in material existence is prevented from appearing directly by the covering of the false ego, which is itself illumined by the consciousness of the pure soul. Purport. The analogy given here is excellent. During the rainy season, we cannot see the moon in the sky because the moon is covered by clouds. These clouds, however, are radiant with the glow of the moon's own rays. Similarly, in our conditioned material existence, we cannot directly perceive the soul because our consciousness is covered by the false ego, which is the false identification with the material world and the material world and the material body. Yet, it is the soul's own consciousness that illumines the false ego. As the Gita describes, the energy of the soul is consciousness, and when this consciousness manifests through the screen of false ego, it spreads as dull material consciousness, in which there is no direct vision of the soul or God. In the material world, even great philosophers ultimately resort to hazy ambiguities when speaking about the absolute truth. Just as the cloudy sky manifests only in a dull and indirect way the iridescent light of the moon. In material life, our false ego is often enthusiastic, hopeful, and apparently aware of various material affairs, and such consciousness encourages us to push on a material existence. But in truth, we are merely experiencing the dull reflection of our original pure consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness, direct perception of the soul and God, not realizing that the false ego merely hampers and dulls our real spiritual consciousness, which is fully enlightened and blissful. We mistakenly think that material consciousness is full of knowledge and happiness. This is comparable to thinking that the luminous clouds are lighting up the night sky, while in fact it is the moonshine that illumines the sky, and the clouds that merely dull and hamper the moonshine. The clouds appear luminous because they are filtering and impeding the brilliant rays of the moon. Similarly, at times, material consciousness appears pleasurable or enlightened because it is screening or filtering the original blissful and enlightened consciousness coming directly from the soul. If we can understand the ingenious analogy given in this verse, we can easily advance in Krishna consciousness. Gurave Gurachandraya, Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya, Krishna Bhaktaya Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Namamo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nidisisa Sunyavadi Pashtadishtarine. Vanjakapatrubhyasta Kripa Sindhya Paditana Pavanavibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I thank everyone for being here this morning for our Srimad Bhagavatam discourse, especially Maharaj. So the text again. Rarājoḍupaś sva-jyotsnā-rājitair ghanaiḥ ahaṁ-matyā bhāsitayā sva-bhāsā puruṣo yathā. During the rainy season, the moon was prevented from appearing directly by the covering of the clouds, which were themselves illumined by the moon's rays. Similarly, the living being in material existence is prevented from appearing directly by the covering of the false ego, which is itself illumined by the consciousness of the pure soul. So this being the summer season, and then next month is supposed to be the beginning of the rainy season or monsoon. Here in India they call it monsoon, but other parts of the world we have rainy season, dry season, summertime, fall season, different seasons are there. And of course this particular chapter, Srila Sukadeva Goswami had described the two of the seasons which are there, and these particular two seasons, they're very, very special season because it's no more hot. Because when it's raining, the heat comes down. Now it's very, very hot now, so we can feel the heat. But when the rainy season starts, the monsoon starts, so the heat will come down. Now the thing is that when Lord Krishna performing his pastimes, actually Lord Krishna performing his pastimes is every day, it's Nitya Lila, it doesn't stop. So all the seasons, they all are very, very eager to render service to the Lord. It's not that the summer season is so hot, so Krishna is here in Vrindavan, and then he's feeling the heat. Or the rainy, or the winter time is too cold. We know that the winter can be very atrocious here. So the winter is inconveniencing Krishna, especially he has to go to the forest, taking the cows for grazing. But that's not the case. All the seasons, as a matter of fact, they are present at once. There are six seasons. They are present at once when Lord Krishna is performing his pastimes. So which means Krishna is not inconvenienced in any way. Everything is moderate. Moderate summertime, moderate wintertime, spring, autumn, everything is moderate. There's no Krishna is feeling very, very hot now, so therefore, Krishna is feeling very, very cold because of the winter season. No, all these seasons, they all simultaneously there rendering service to Krishna. So that's the specialty. But now, so we are discussing how, is this chapter discussing the rainy season, and then the descriptions of the rainy and the winter season, the rainy and the autumn is being described. So Srila Prabhupada, some time ago in the early 60s, he was invited to Japan to come and present the Vedic literatures, the Vedic subject to come and present. So Srila Prabhupada he prepared himself to go. And then in such preparation, so Srila Prabhupada, he knew that yes, the Oriental people, like the Japanese, the Chinese, they appreciate so much the nature. They appreciate the nature so much. So Srila Prabhupada decided to choose a chapter from the Bhagavatam, whereby he will describe, he will make a description of nature. And this chapter, Srila Prabhupada chose this particular chapter, which is the description of the rainy and autumn season. Now, if that is on the book, Light of the Bhagavat, do you have it? You have the database there? The Light of the Bhagavat. Can you open it up? The Light of the Bhagavat. Oh, it's not. So the book is called The Light of the Bhagavat. How many have read the book? How many? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So everyone has read it. It's very nice, beautiful descriptions. This book was published. Srila Prabhupada wrote the book in the early 60s, but somehow Prabhupada did not go to he didn't go to Japan to present. But after his passing, the book was published by the BBT, called The Light of the Bhagavat. So the text, one of the texts which is corresponding to this today's text is, I have it here. I will read it. But Srila Prabhupada presented different little bit of variations in the descriptions of this text. So this text number 16, if you have the database, you can look on the Light of the Bhagavat. Text number 16. So, and this is Srila Prabhupada's writing. Text number 16 is, but even though it's text number 19 here, but it's text 16 on this chapter. So at night, by the grace of moonlight, the clouds in the sky can be seen moving. Yet the moon itself also appears to be moving, just as a living being appears to be moving because of false identification with matter. So you can see the description which has been given, how we see sometimes you're outside in the rainy season, and then you see the clouds moving. The cloud is moving. It's very, very cloudy. You cannot see the moon, but you see the cloudy, and sometimes you can also, so you see the cloud moving, and sometimes you see the moon itself is also moving. So to your eye, the moon is moving to your eye. But actually, such vision, it's only due to illusion, because the moon does not move. The moon stays in one place. But you are thinking that, oh, the moon is going about, is moving. So that illusion, which has been presented to the eye, this is due to false conception. So Srila Prabhupada said, at night, in the rainy season, the moving clouds reflecting the moonlight make the moon appear to be moving. This is called illusion. The spirit soul, or the living being, is the root of all the activities of the material body, but because of illusion, the spirit soul remains covered by the gross and subtle material bodies. Thus covered, the conditioned soul identifies with the material body and becomes subject to the sense of false ego. This false ego obliges a living being to consider its material body to be his self, the offspring of the body to be his children, and the land of the birth of the body to be an object of worship. Thus, the living being's conception of nationalism is another type of ignorance. Because of ignorance, a living being identifies himself with the land of his birth and moves with the misconceptions of national ideas. In fact, however, a living being does not belong to any nation or species of life. He has nothing to do with the body, as the moon has nothing to do with the moving clouds. It is very deep to understand. The moon is far away from the clouds and is fixed in its own orbit. But illusion presents a scene in which the moon appears to be moving. A living being should not float with the misconceptions of the temporary body. He must always know himself to be transcendental to the bodily identity. This is the path of knowledge. And complete knowledge fixes the living being in the orbit of spiritual activities. The spiritual living force is always active by nature. By illusion, his activities are wrongly directed in relation with the body. But in the liberated condition of complete knowledge, his activities are conducted in spiritual devotion. Liberation does not mean stopping activities. It means being purified of illusory activities and becoming transcendental to relations with the gross and subtle bodies. So this write-up by Srila Prabhupada is very, very fully instructive about the condition of the living entities being covered by false ego. And with this false ego, there is all kinds of misconceptions, especially the bodily identification that I am this body, I am male, female, I'm black, white, orange, green, whatever, or I am Indian and American and British, French, all these various identifications, which is nothing but illusion due to false ego, because what happened is that once the time allocated for the soul to be in a particular body, once that time arrives, once that time comes, then it becomes useless. It becomes useless. You know, for example, if two dead bodies are lying on the ground, you know, and they previously belonged to a particular nationality, nobody's going to say this is a dead, whatever, this particular nation or that particular nationality. A dead person is a dead person. Nobody cares what the dead person is. Everyone, they are very, very anxious to get rid of the body. So this so-called identification, which we're having with this body, this is all due to illusion. And as long as that illusion is there, then one cannot understand, one can never attain the reality of knowing oneself, as Mahaprabhu said, that Jiva Swarupa Krishna Niti does. Because we're eternal servant of God, we're eternal servant of Krishna, and we are meant to be enjoyed by Krishna. We are meant to avail ourselves for Krishna's pleasure. But the false identity is there. So as long as that false identity is there, then there'll be no question of one realizing oneself as a servant of God. Otherwise, normally it's opposite. One sees oneself as the master. We think that, yes, I'm the master of all I can survey. That's the way we see ourselves. So Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita, text number, chapter 3, text 39. So the Lord said, abritam jnanametena jnanino nitya bharina kama rupena konteya duspurina na dinacha. Discovering. So the living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by its eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So while the material world, the living entity was originally pure, because the soul, Jiva, is part of Krishna and is made up of Krishna's energy, Krishna's Tatastha Shakti. But in the material world, being having turned the back away from Krishna, and with the desire to enjoy the material world, to be the Lord of all he can survey, so the living entity is covered by Krishna's avidya Shakti, ignorance, potency. So, and this potency, which is Krishna Shakti, avidya potency, this manifests in the form of lust. And what is this lust? The lust want to enjoy the material world. And the desire to enjoy, this desire never diminishes. It's always going on, because in the material world, no matter what you attain, you still want more, you still want more. There is never any satisfaction. So the Lord said, which means this desire to accumulate, to enjoy, is always increasing. It's always increasing, just like you put a fuel into the fire. It's always ongoing. There is no end to it. And we find that, just like if you become a billionaire, you never say that, okay, now I have enough money, now let me just go sit back. No, you want to have more. You want to have more and more money. And if you don't have what you are looking for, then you become depressed about it. Just like we have many, many people whereby they have everything, but despite them having everything, they are still committing suicide. Like in the West especially, we have so many, many very successful people, materially successful, but they are still committing suicide. Why? Because they feel themselves not having enough. However, that feeling of not having enough, this is due to this feeling is compared to it's like the ray of the soul, because the soul is spiritual by nature. The soul really have nothing to do with this material world. Just like the cloud is there, the cloud is moving, and when the cloud is there, sometimes because of the rays of the moon, the cloud is there, and then we take the cloud, even though we may have some light, but that light coming from the cloud is very, very dull. It's not like a bright light when the moon is actually directly seen. So similarly, also the soul is there by nature, by nature of which is chaitana, full consciousness, the soul. But in the material covering, the potency of the soul is not seen because of the covering of the soul, and the soul has been covered by this false identity, by this false ego. So therefore, there is never any real satisfaction. So locations say the living entities originally is pure. It's originally pure, but it's covered. It's covered in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no covering, but in the material world, there is covering. So, Srila Prabhupada is saying this purport here. He said, it is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maitunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this loss is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world, while one enjoys sense gratification. It may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. Because, we feel some kind of happiness, in this world, when we are trying to, some kind of happiness. Sometimes, you get paid, you have some money, and then you can get some happiness trying to enjoy material life. But that happiness is described to be illusory. Why? Because it's temporary happiness. Because no matter what kind of happiness you get, ultimately there is an end to it. And after happiness, there is distress. So both distress and happiness, they come, they're always there. And then there is the tapatraya, the 3-4 miseries. That's always disturbing, the attempt to be happy. So therefore, how can the jiva actually obtain his real bliss? How can he obtain his actual nature, which is bliss, happiness? How can he get it? That's only possible only if you come in association with Krishna, become Krishna devotee. That's only possible. You become Krishna devotee, then you become happy. But what is the procedure? Can we see Krishna by our own effort? Because you come into contact with Krishna, you become happy. But can you actually see Krishna by your own effort? So therefore, the scripture said, no, the Lord is not easily obtained. The Lord is not easily obtained. Nayan atman prabhachena labhyo, na medaya na bhavana strutena, yami vaisa vrinute tena labhyo, tasya isa atma vrinute tanusham. So it says, the Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanations. Because one may be a great scholar. There are so many great scholars who try to describe the Lord. But the Lord is not obtained by expert scholarship. The Lord is not obtained by such expert, by vast intelligence, not even by much hearing. He is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. So which means, you trying to see Krishna? No, it's not possible. Krishna see only when Krishna reveals himself to his surrendered devotees. So which means, when you become surrendered to the Lord, following a pure devotee of the Lord, by following a pure devotee of the Lord, and then you surrender without any ulterior motive, then when the Lord become, happy or pleased by your surrender, that he reveal himself. He reveal himself to you. Otherwise, it's not. He reveal himself by his own volition, by his own independence. The Lord reveal himself to you. The Lord reveal himself to you. But as long as you are covered by the false ego, thinking with this conception of I and my, I all the time, so this is not possible. So therefore, the humility is required. The first process of devotional activities is we won't become humble, and that humility begins by regret of one's involvement in the materialistic activities. The regret has to be there. It's not that we have a particular qualification, so therefore we engage in the devotional service. So the regret has to be there. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the seventh Goswami, our great, the great Vaishnava-acharya, he had composed in Saranagati. This is one of Srila Prabhupada's famous songs. Buliya Tomari Samsarasya, Payenana Bida Vyata, Tomare Charane Asya Chiyami, Balibo Dukira Kata. So he said, my dear Lord, forgetting you and coming to the material world, I have undergone all sorts of suffering. Now I have come before your feet and will express my tale of distress. Krishna Buli Se Jivanadi Bhayamuka Ataiva Maya Tori Deya Samsaradi Dukkha. This is Mahaprabhu talking to Sanatana Goswami, that when a soul outside the realm of time and space, any Tatastha Shakti, turns away from Krishna and forgets him, Maya subjects him to the various miseries of worldly existence. Janami Jatari Chilama Jakona Bishama Bandana Pose Ekbara Prabhu Deka Diya More Banchile Edina Dase. He said, why I was bound in the terrible confines of my mother's womb, you once revealed yourself to me, O Lord, yet since then you have deprived these poor servants. You have deprived these poor servants, only souls who, through divine fortune, directly meet the Lord while bound within the womb of their mother, feel separations from Him, and are able to say, O Lord, you have deprived these poor servants. This is not the case for all souls. So Srila Jiva Goswami has established this conclusion in his Sandarbha. Takana Bhavinu Janama Bhaya, Kariba Bhajana Taba, Janama Haila Padi Maya Jali, Na Haila Gyana Laba. At that moment, I thought I will engage in your service after taking birth. Yet, when I was born, I fell into Maya's trap, and not a trace of such consciousness remained. Just like when you read the third canto of Bhagavatam, in the teachings of Lord Kapila, how it is describing about the situation of the living entities, that when the living entities is within the womb of the mother, because of so much suffering that is there, so the living entity is actually crying out to God, to Krishna, that my dear Lord, I'm in this terrible situation, but I promise you that once I come out of this one, I'm going to become, your servant. I'm going to become your devotee, because I did not want to return to this womb again. Then, of course, the moment the living entities come out of the womb and surrounded by family affections, then he forgets the promise which he had made within the womb. Usually that's what happened. Then he said, Adarera chilele sojanere kole, asiya katana kala, janaka janani snete hebolia, samsara lagia bola. As a son of adoring parents, I spend my time in their laps, smiling and laughing. Because of my mother and father's affection, I forgot you and took pleasure in family life, which means this material existence. Kramedina dina balaka hoya, kalina balaka saha, Hare kichu dina ghanaiḥ pata pari aha. Day by day, I grew into a young boy and played with other young boys. Later on, my intellect developed and I studied my lessons day in and day out. Vidyara Gorave Brahmi Desi Desi Dana Upajana Kori Swajana Polana Kori Ekamane Bolino Tumari Hari. Then, on the strength of my learning, I traveled from place to place, earned money, and maintained my family. With undivided attention, I forgot you, O Lord. So this is our situation in this material world. We earn money, we work so hard, and then we earn money, we try to enjoy ourselves with family and friends. So ultimately, because we are so absorbed in that, so therefore we forgot that yes, we're supposed to dedicate whatever we have for the service of the Lord. But we forget all these things because we become absorbed in our own selves due to being covered by ignorance. Badake kona bakati binoda kadeya katarawati na bajiya tore dina britagela ekana ki obe goti. Now aged, Bhaktivinoda cries in great distress. Not serving you, I have passed my days in vain. What will be my fate now? Vidyara bila se kotayana kala, parama sahasyami, tomara charana na bhajina kogu, ekana sarana to me. I spend my time absorbed in the pleasures of learning with great confidence. I never served your feet. Now you are my shelter. Parite puruṣo boriya gyane gati hobi mani. Se ase bifolo se ghana drupala se gyana agyana jani. Studying continuously, my confidence that I will attain the fulfillment of life through knowledge increased. Yet that hope was futile, and that knowledge was useless. And now know such knowledge to be ignorance. So which means, because this is a very long composition of Srila Bhakti-yoga, so which means all this materialistic knowledge that we might have acquired, thinking that we'll be fulfilled, thinking that our life will be fulfilled, then ultimately we find them to be useless because they can be of no use to us. Just like the famous story of a scholar who wanted to cross a river. So this scholar wanted to cross a river, and he saw a boatman, and then he got into the boat, and I told the boatman to take him across the river. So while boatman was riding the boat, so the scholar asked the boatman that have you studied geography, the nature of existence? So the boatman said, no, I only know how to row my boat. So the scholar said, oh, which means 25% of your life is wasted because you have not studied all these things. And then again, he asked the boatman again if he has studied chemistry or all these various subjects. The boatman said, no, I have not studied all these things. I only know how to row my boat. So the scholar said, well, 50% of your life is wasted. And then as they were going, the scholar again asked him that if he has studied some elements of life, this and that. The boatman said, no, I've not studied all these things, I only know how to row my boat. So the scholar said, then 75% of your life is wasted. And all of a sudden, there was a big storm in the middle of the river. A big storm was there. So as the big storm was there, so the scholar asked the boatman that, what is happening? What's going on? Why the boat is rocking here and there? The boatman said, well, there's a big storm. The boat may collapse. Don't you know how to swim? The scholar said, no, I don't know how to swim. I don't know how to swim. So the boatman said, well, if you don't know how to swim, then 100% of your life is wasted. So that is our nature, that's our condition in this material world. Instead of us to dedicate ourselves to the service of the Supreme Lord, to serve, to surrender under the pure devotee of the Lord, and render service to Sri Krishna, we rather pursue materialistic knowledge, materialistic endeavors, thinking that that will give us fulfillment. Ultimately, we become a loser ultimately. We lose everything ultimately. So therefore, the best thing in life is to become, the lost devotee, to be a servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishna Nitya. We should not be covered by the material energy. We should not be covered by ignorance. Let's pray so that the Lord can reveal himself. We can see the light of Krishna consciousness. So this is basically this is the highlight of this text. This text which says the covering, desiring the rainy season, the moon was prevented from appearing directly by the covering of the clouds, which were themselves illumined by the moon's rays. Similarly, the living being in material existence is prevented from appearing directly by the covering of the false ego, which is itself illumined by the consciousness of the pure soul. So let's not cover ourselves by the false ego. There is a false ego and there is a real ego. The false ego is to think ourselves to be what we are not, but the real ego is that, we are Krishna Das. That's our real ego. And that's our constitutional position, that yes, Krishna does, and not does. So thank you very much. If there is any question or comment, you can please go ahead. Okay.
Krishna is our most loving father. At the same time, the spiritual knowledge is very subtle. It's very difficult to advance in spiritual. So both are like, he wants us back, but at the same time, the path is very subtle. How to understand this?
Yeah, the path is very subtle because the subtle part, because we ourselves, we don't have a very strong inclination to surrender. Our strong inclination is not there. Even though we meet a spiritual master, we meet a guru, and the guru is telling us what to do to advance in Krishna consciousness, but somehow we always have our own idea. Maybe if I do this, maybe I'll become advanced if I do that. But instead of simply following what the spiritual master says. So basically, if we surrender, because we cannot practice spiritual life without the direction of the guru or the spiritual master. We cannot, there's no such a thing. Spiritual life is not possible. That's what we call ahaṁ-matyā. Ahaṁ-matyā means to follow. So which means we have to serve Krishna under the direction of a spiritual master, of a self-realized pure devotee of Krishna. That's the only way. We cannot say that, I can become a gopi. No, it's not possible. If we follow 100% the spiritual master, the directions, then it guarantees, like Prabhupada said, that he said my success is because I follow my spiritual master 100%. He said, that's my success. I do everything because I follow my spiritual master. So if you are fortunate to have a spiritual master, then we have to follow him. We cannot have our own idea in terms of how to render devotional service. No, we have to follow 100% what the spiritual master. We have to follow the footsteps. I mean, whatever he tells us, we follow. Not our own ideas. If you can give up our own ideas, then you become, Krishna conscious, you become, brilliant. The shine can shine forth. Okay. Another point? Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very nicely you have explained regarding the ignorance, that is the covering of lust.
Yeah.
And you have given the reference of Bhagavad-Gita chapter 3.39,
Yeah.
where Krishna has described
Ahaṁ-matyā.
3 degrees of lust.
Yeah.
One is the fire covered by the smoke, at the first degree. Second degree is the mirror covered by the dust. And the third degree is the most difficult thing, like the fetus covered by the uterus.
Yeah.
So the solution for that you said is the devotional service, and it starts with humility.
Yeah.
And that you have mentioned that humility, you said one has to repent repeatedly for his mistakes.
Yeah.
So just by repenting, is it is possible? Because in Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, Parikshit Maharaj, when he asked the same question for atonement, so the question was rejected. It's not the...
Now, repentance is not atonement. There's two different things. If you read the Bhakti-yoga Shranagati prayers, akshepa means to regret the feelings. So Bhakti-yoga, he wrote so many prayers in these feelings of regret. How do we regret our own existence in material world? So unless you actually regret, because you've taken yourself to be something which you are not all this life. You take yourself to be somebody which, so therefore, this mentality of regret has to be there. Oh my dear Lord, I've taken myself, I have this education, I have all these things, I take myself to be such an important person. Whereas this is just web of illusion. So therefore, I'm surrendering unto you. Realizing my nothingness, that actually I mean nothing. So therefore, I am surrendering myself unto you. But without regret, it's impossible to surrender. Otherwise, we say, oh, I'm such a person, and when we enter devotional service, we want to be known by that so-called qualification that we have. We want to be known by that. Whereas all such demons are supposed to be given up. So therefore, we should try to read, study these prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He has written Shranagati, Kayan Kapitaru. Let's read those prayers. We know. It enables us to reflect. We begin to reflect within ourselves. So the self-reflection is very, very important for a devotee. With the self-reflection, then it can enable you to start becoming humble. And then when you become humble, then you can be a better servant. Because if you're not humble, you cannot be a better servant. You can't say, I'm doing something because I just have to do it. That's not humility. Actually, humility means when you become really humble, then you can become a better servant. And that will show in your character. That will show. So, so that is there.
And also you mentioned Krishna choose those persons to whom he will reveal the knowledge.
Exactly.
But at the same time, there is something called self-realization, or God realization. There are 3 types of knowledge. There is acquired knowledge, realized knowledge, and revealed knowledge. So what is
actually, after self-realization, you surrender to God after self-realization. You enter into devotional service. And then you are serving under the direction of the pure devotee of Krishna. You don't serve Krishna by your own endeavor. You serve Krishna under guidance of the pure devotee of Krishna. And then, through the grace of that pure devotee of Krishna, who is a manifestation of Srimati Radharani's mercy, then Krishna, may choose to reveal himself to you. But that is in his own independence. Krishna is supreme independence. It's not required to do that. Actually, for a devotee who's serving, because he's so absorbed in serving Krishna, serving the Guru, he's not so much concerned about when Krishna is going to reveal himself to him. He's simply concerned about when he's just concerned about his service. That's all. Just how to render the service. So how to become das, that is the most important thing. How we can become the servant of the Lord. We become the servant of the Lord, but become the servant of the Lord's devotees. Basically. To be a servant is not the easy thing to be a servant. So when we say Krishna das is not an easy thing to be Krishna das. Okay. Anyway, Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Grantarasham Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Go Premanande.